A vibrant 23-year-old woman from Detroit is known for radiating positivity and joy. While she thrives on fun and social connections, her dedication to her career and passion for education truly set her apart. Gifted with incredible hairstyling skills, she is a force to be reckoned with. However, when she suddenly goes missing, shockwaves ripple through her community. Her family and friends rally together in search of the truth, while the police are on the hunt to learn what happened that evening and what happens when love becomes fatal. This is the Fatal Attraction Podcast with Holding On to Hope.
August 15th, 2015. It's Saturday morning in Detroit, Michigan, an industrial city which has undergone dramatic revitalization in recent years.
Detroit is basically a blue-collar town, a lot of hard-working people.
In past years, I'll say from the 2000s up, it's been on a rebirth.
They're trying to bring it back and rebuild downtown Detroit.
Yet despite its progress, the city still has its share of criminal activity.
Detroit is still gritty. Dangers are there.
And for one family, the danger may be lurking closer to home.
Cynthia? Man, you're up early.
Cynthia Worthy was living with her sister in Detroit.
Sis.
And that Saturday morning, her sister realized she hadn't come home the night before, which was unlike her.
That's weird.
She calls Cynthia and she also texts her with no response.
I can't come to the phone right now, but if you leave me a brief message, I'll give you a call at my earliest convenience.
It was quite out of character, and right away you wonder if something could be wrong.
Growing more concerned by the minute, she reaches out to her other sister, Arshana.
Hello? She called me and was like, hey, Cynthia didn't come home last night. Have you talked to her? And I was like, well, no, I didn't talk to her.
Cynthia was young. She liked to go out. She liked to have fun. So initially they thought that maybe she'd spent the night with a friend.
What do you mean she didn't come home?
And I was like, okay, just give it a couple hours. She probably sleeps somewhere. I had to work from 12 to 9 that day. And she was taking me. She not gonna just not come take me to work.
The sisters wait, but Cynthia never shows up.
I had called my sister back like, she's still not there? And she was like, no, her phone is going to voicemail. She like, Shana, I'm scared. I said, maybe her phone did. She's gonna call, like, we'll hear from her.
Arshana is able to take a car service to work, but by the end of the day, the sisters still haven't gotten through to Cynthia.
Have you heard anything? No, I've been trying to reach her all day.
When I got off of work, nobody had heard from her. So I called her mom.
When I got the call, I didn't want to worry at first. We keep calling her and texting her. She's not responding. No one knows where she is.
As night settles in, the family's worry turns to panic.
Please respond.
I'm texting her like, what's going on? What's going on? And no response. Her phone is going to voicemail when we call.
It's just not like her.
So I'm like, something is really, really, really wrong.
23-year-old Cynthia Worthy always put forth a joyful spirit.
Cynthia was a ball of fun. She always showed her heart with everything.
Cynthia just all around was a breath of fresh air for all of us.
She was just genuinely happy, always. She always found the light at the end of the tunnel.
To Cynthia, family was everything.
She was ride or die for her family. Like, we were really, really close.
She was always a family person. Her father and I weren't together, but he has such a great extended family.
Her mom, my dad, they had their issues, but we all were really close growing up.
When she wasn't spending time with family, Cynthia was out with her friends.
She was really popular. Everybody liked her.
She was the funny, very talkative, outgoing girl.
He was great. So I'm like,
And as she got older, she had her choice of men.
she got a lot of attention everywhere she went. She was really beautiful.
She was just one of the people that just wanted to enjoy herself.
But Cynthia never let her personal life distract her from her goals.
Cynthia had started taking classes to become a teacher.
However, paying for tuition, books, and supplies wasn't easy.
She was independent, and she was always trying to have and keep money.
She liked the ideal of never asking anybody for anything.
So Cynthia put her education on hold to focus on something she loved that would also pay the bills.
She was doing hair. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a good way to get money in your pocket because she was really good at it.
I think that was going to go a long way for her.
Before long, Cynthia was making enough money to afford a new apartment across town with her sister, Mariah.
Hey, sis, what you doing? Hey.
But even with a stable job and a new apartment, something was missing.
She was being young, but she loved love.
6'1". And he likes to work. Oh, and he loves to cook. I love to eat.
Around 2015, online dating was really starting to pick up.
For Cynthia, the whole concept of online dating fit her style perfectly.
You meet them, you hope it works, but if it doesn't work, now you're on to the next person.
But one man in particular quickly stood out from the rest. 25-year-old Terrence Jones.
She could tell he was charming, and he was showing a real interest in her.
She's excited about this.
She couldn't wait to meet him in person. She felt like she could really see herself falling for him.
She's looking forward to love.
But now, nobody has heard from Cynthia in nearly 24 hours.
It just didn't make sense.
Something not right. So we just went to the police station.
Me and my sister want to file a missing persons report.
Cynthia's sisters tell police they have reason to believe she could be in grave danger.
She went on a date with a guy she met on that dating site.
With internet dating, you don't know what you're going to run into.
It is dangerous because you have crazy people.
You don't know what's on the other side of that profile.
Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
23-year-old Cynthia Worthy had everything going for her. A new apartment with her sister, a great group of friends, and a promising career.
She's a happy and an ambitious young lady who has her life ahead of her.
But now, Cynthia has disappeared after a date with a man she met online.
Me and my sister want to file a missing persons report.
She's not answering nobody calls, texts. That wasn't like her.
They were concerned that this could have been a stranger who had other ideas about the date.
Unfortunately, Cynthia's sisters aren't able to provide police with much information about the man she was seeing that night.
Do you know who she's with?
No, I mean, she was talking to a lot of different guys.
This was a brand new relationship, so she hadn't filled her family in on all the details.
While police are eager to track down Cynthia's mystery date, they also have other possibilities to consider.
When there's a missing person reported, the police have certain guidelines that are followed. You ask them about, is that person's state of mind the last time you talked to them? Were they in a good mood? Were they depressed?
Did Cynthia not want to be found?
Is that unusual for her to just take off like this?
Yeah, she never leave without telling anyone.
That's not like Cynthia.
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
To bolster their claims, Cynthia's family points to some exciting plans she had coming up.
She was due to go to a concert that evening.
I was supposed to go to the Chris Brown concert with her. Cynthia actually bought the tickets for us.
I was trying to buy cheap seats, and Cynthia was like, no, we got to go and sit in the great seat. So
She paid the extra.
There was no way she would miss that show unless something really serious happened.
The family's pretty adamant this is not something she would have done or chosen to do as far as disappearing.
We just knew something was really wrong.
Police agree. It seems likely that foul play is involved in Cynthia's disappearance. They just hope they can locate her before it's too late.
They get a description of her, and they also get a description of her vehicle, which is very important.
The officer issues a bolo, so all other officers in the area will know to be on the lookout for Cynthia and her vehicle.
Next, the missing persons report is handed over to detectives.
Hey, detectives. Hey, I have a missing persons report.
The worry is starting to come in, but you still try to hold on to that hope that she's just doing her own things. They're going to find her.
Thank you. We'll take it from here.
Okay.
First, detectives subpoena Cynthia's phone and internet records.
They're hoping that something in those records would help them identify who her date was, but it takes time to get that kind of information.
In the meantime, they investigate the case from square one.
As an investigator, the first thing you want to do is contact hospitals in case there was a car accident or an injury that may have occurred and this person is in a hospital as a Jane Doe.
And Cynthia's family jumps in to help the search where they can.
We wanted to find out what was going on, and I'm asking her friends, I'm searching through Facebook, like somebody give me a clue.
I called literally every hospital in the city. I called different precincts. I was just checking everywhere, and nobody had her.
Hitting only dead ends, detectives dig into Cynthia's social circle.
They decide to speak to friends as well, not just family.
They're hoping that maybe she told one of them about the man she was meeting up with that night.
Fortunately, detectives make contact with Cynthia's friend, Cora Weaver, who seems to know more about her dating life.
Cora and Cynthia had known each other since they were kids, and they still got together a couple of times a month.
Did she ever mention anything about meeting a man online?
Which one? I mean, she was always going out with somebody new.
Cora did not know exactly how many people Cynthia was dating, but Cora did know that Cynthia had issues with a guy named Terrence Jones.
She says Cynthia told her all about Terrence. She didn't know if he was who she was out with that night, but she did confirm that they met each other online.
After messaging back and forth for a while, Cora says that Cynthia finally decided to meet Terrence in person.
He told her that he would make her dinner.
The date went smoothly at first.
I just want to appreciate you for coming out.
He was attractive, and they obviously had chemistry. She was having a good time.
Get this glass for you.
But it didn't take long for the mood to change.
Cynthia noticed some red flags. He was rather aggressive.
Especially when she refused to have sex with him.
Terrence seemed to have an idea of where this date was going in his head, but Cynthia was not willing to go there.
He wanted to force himself on her. He didn't want to accept no for an answer.
What you mean we ain't agree on it?
We didn't.
Cynthia was used to running into weirdos online, but Terrence actually made her feel unsafe.
Terrence chases her out into the road, and he makes remarks towards her. He curses at her.
Hey, come back here.
He was making threats.
I'm coming for you. You hear me?
Cynthia was fearing for her life.
I'm coming for you.
Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
In speaking with her friend, Cora Weaver, detectives investigating Cynthia Worthy's sudden disappearance have just learned that a man she met online named Terrence Jones could have motive to harm her.
Hey, come back here.
She's very fearful of Terrence because he makes threats against her, even threatening to come after her and do harm.
And he just kept harassing her after that date.
Harassing her in what way?
He continues to call her. He sends her text messages.
If you leave me a brief message, I'll give you a call at my earliest convenience.
She blocked his calls, but he started contacting her from anonymous numbers.
This was someone who was, stalking her. Cora tells Cynthia that she should contact the police. But Cynthia is reluctant. She's hoping that this is something that would go away.
Considering her fear of Terrence, Cora says it's unlikely that he's the person Cynthia met up with on the night she went missing. But she still believes he has something to do with her disappearance.
Cora was very concerned.
She said she had never seen Cynthia scared the way she was when she talked about this guy.
Yes.
I'll walk you out. We can help you this way.
Detectives want to speak with Terrence Jones as soon as possible. But tracking him down will be easier said than done.
They don't even know if Terrence is his real name.
Oftentimes, people put up profiles that are fake, false, using aliases as opposed to their own names.
However, combing through online profiles, detectives get a breakthrough.
They were able to locate Terrence Jones.
According to his social media, Terrence was a local, living and working in Detroit.
When detectives reach out, he reluctantly agrees to come in for an interview.
Terrence was apprehensive about talking to the police.
Initially, he's not saying anything. He doesn't know why he's there.
Are you going to tell me what this is about?
Well, we're investigating a missing person.
When police mention Cynthia Worthy, he looks confused.
You got the wrong guy. I don't know anyone named Cynthia Worthy.
Then they show him a picture of Cynthia.
And what Terrence says next takes detectives by surprise.
I met her once, but her name wasn't Cynthia.
He realizes they're talking about someone he knew as Lady.
Terrence says he met her through a website called Backpage.
Backpage.com was like a Craigslist for escort services. People could go on there and post personal ads, and people could contact them for whatever services that they were offering.
If in fact Cynthia is an escort, well, that's news to the police.
Terrence admits that he got angry with Cynthia during their meetup, but claims he had good reason to be upset.
It's not what you think. She ripped me off.
He says that he paid her money for sex and that apparently she didn't provide the services that he paid for and that she ran off.
He said, yes, I called her, I texted her, but I just wanted to get my money back.
He admits that he was upset, but he says that he was not looking for revenge.
I wasn't happy about what happened, but I wasn't mad enough to do something stupid.
His account was very different from Cora's version of events. So now it's like a case of he said, she said.
Detectives aren't taking Terrence's story at face value. They ask him if he has an alibi for the night Cynthia went missing.
Friday night? Man, y'all been wasting my time.
He tells the police, look, I was with another escort on that night.
He said, here's her name, here's her phone number. She'll tell you the same thing.
Detectives have no choice but to let Terrence go. And when they follow up with the escort, she confirms his story.
Police learn that, yes, in fact, the alibi is true, that Terrence was with this other escort that night. He could not have possibly done this to Cynthia.
That kind of put him back at square one.
While the revelation that Cynthia was working as an escort could provide new leads, it also brings a new set of challenges.
You're dealing with someone who may have had hundreds of contacts.
It could take weeks to sort through that many potential suspects, and that's time they don't have.
When Cynthia's family hears that she'd been working as an escort, they're shocked.
She was so much more than that. And all I could think of was, who talked her into this?
I did not know that. She didn't really tell me about her dating life, but I would have told her, I don't think that's right, because
I believe that was a temporary way to make money until she can get the job she wanted, or to settle down and say, I want to go back to school. Because it was always a plan going on with her. That was a way to make money, fast money, quick money, a lot of money. That's what the mentality is. And I think that's a youth culture now is hustle, hustle, hustle.
I did have a conversation with her about where was her money coming from, but I never knew that's what she was doing. She tried to play it off with doing hair.
Regardless of this revelation, Cynthia's family just wants her home safe.
I can't say that I reconcile with her choosing that, but we just want to find her. This has nothing to do with that. I was pushing it aside.
And nearly 48 hours into the search for Cynthia, her sister Arshana comes up with a lead of her own.
I remember that her car had OnStar in it at the time, and I worked at OnStar. That was my job.
A lot of vehicles now have GPS systems. If something's wrong, there's a way you can locate it by GPS.
Usually, it will take police a while to get access to that sort of private information. They have to go through the proper channels, especially when they don't have proof that a crime has been committed.
But Arshana is able to move quickly.
I got the police report, and I was able to call my job and say, hey, my sister's missing.
They plug the information into their database, and they get a hit.
They couldn't give me the information. They had to give it to an officer. So a detective called my job, and they gave him the location.
They have a map leading them straight to Cynthia's car.
Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast as detectives inch closer to unraveling the truth.
Thanks to some help from her sister Arshana, Detroit detectives have just made a game-changing discovery in the disappearance of Cynthia Worthy.
They get a break, a pretty big break, which is the GPS from Cynthia's vehicle.
The GPS coordinates lead detectives to a suburb on the outskirts of Detroit.
What's interesting is that her vehicle is in Oak Park, Michigan, just north of the city.
Oak Park would be considered a more affluent suburb of Detroit.
Here's her vehicle in another community. Why is it here?
And Arshana is determined to be there for the search.
They found Cynthia's car. Come get me.
Detectives wanted family to come and positively ID her car and see if anything was missing or out of place.
When Cynthia's sisters arrive at the scene, they immediately fear the worst.
When we first put up to the car, I was really scared to look because I thought she was going to be in the car, but she's not here.
There was no sign of Cynthia.
But police do find signs that Cynthia is in danger.
When they get to the vehicle, they learn a lot.
They just looked like it was signs of struggle. She had like a CD cover up on her sun visor that had a lot of CDs in it. That was like through in the back. And then everything that was in her trunk was through in the middle section.
It's not quite obvious, right? But some type of fight or altercation may have occurred.
Even how it was parked, you can kind of tell like someone just kind of parked it there.
Although there's no indication of what exactly happened, one possibility is quickly ruled out.
Her wallet was in the glove box.
That says a lot. This was not a robbery attempt or a carjacking. And so now they begin to ask the questions, if this was not a carjacking, then what could have happened?
At this point, she's been missing for 2 days. So we knew like something happened, but we didn't know what to expect.
You don't find someone in 48 hours, you then begin to grow highly concerned that this person may have been injured or possibly even worse.
As a CSI team processes Cynthia's car, her heartbroken family heads back to the city.
I was really upset. I was crying. I didn't know what to think at that point.
The next day, the investigation becomes even more grim.
They get a call about a body being found on the west side of the city of Detroit.
We got a body.
Detectives immediately race to the scene.
We found this body in the alleyway here.
When they arrive, it's clear they found Cynthia Worthy.
All the physical characteristics of this body matches the description of Cynthia.
Somebody saw something and found her in the alley, and they were able to call the police right away, so they were able to find her.
It's immediately obvious to investigators that she had been murdered. And what's also obvious to them is how she was murdered.
She's got a wound to her chest over here.
There was a massive knife wound on her upper left chest and defensive wounds on her face, arms, and torso.
She fought. Whatever happened, she was fighting for her life.
It takes a lot to stab someone to death. It's a crime of passion, which typically means you either know the person or there was a lot of anger involved.
But the lack of evidence at the scene suggests this wasn't where she was killed.
Despite her wounds, there was no blood around her body. So the detectives thought that more than likely she was murdered somewhere else and then dumped into the alley.
I think we need to call her mother.
Now, detectives face the difficult task of notifying Cynthia's family of the tragic news.
I got a phone call, and I just lost it.
I was in denial. It was like, no, like we was looking for her. It just didn't seem real to me.
That was the first heartbreak I ever felt.
As her family mourns, detectives make finding Cynthia's killer their top priority.
The fact that this case was now a homicide meant the police force could now dedicate a lot more resources to it. They were able to pull strings that they couldn't before.
They started going through her internet history, which was a massive undertaking.
In Cynthia's case, she was escorting on multiple dating sites, escort sites.
She talked to hundreds of people online over the months that she'd been on the sites, and they knew that 99% of those were going to be dead ends.
However, Cynthia's phone records prove more helpful.
Fortunately for them, there's a major break in the case because there wasn't hundreds of names, there was only one.
She talked to a guy named Jerome Moore.
You won't want to miss the thrilling twists that are about to unfold. Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
Detectives investigating Cynthia Worthy's murder have just uncovered a new person of interest using her phone records. A man named Jerome Moore.
They were able to determine that Jerome Moore was the person who contacted her on that Friday night.
But who is Jerome Moore?
They knew from Cynthia's text that Jerome had met her through the escort site, so they looked there first.
His profile didn't reveal much, so they decided that they were going to run a background check on him to see what they could pull up.
The results are alarming.
He had carjacking and assault on his record. Not the best individual that you may want to associate with.
He was actually out on parole after serving time in prison.
You find out that this person had been set free after he carjacked a woman, assaulted her, and was just out. That's upsetting.
His record also reveals that Jerome lives in Oak Park, not far from where Cynthia's car was found.
Have a seat.
They immediately reach out to Jerome Moore and call him in for questioning.
Jerome had agreed to sit down for an interview, and he seemed pretty open with the detectives.
Do you know a girl named Cynthia Worthy?
Yeah, we texted a little bit, but we never met.
You went texting with her on Friday night?
Jerome says they were supposed to meet up that night, but Cynthia bailed on him.
He states that she was supposed to come by his place, but she never showed up.
He says, I sent a text, I called her, but she never responded.
I tried calling her and texting her, but she never hit me back.
But is Jerome telling the truth?
Jerome states that he didn't know what could have happened or why she didn't come by.
Look, I didn't never meet her. I don't know anything about this.
He's adamant that he had nothing to do with this and that he's told the police all he knows.
His statement leaves detectives with limited options.
Police don't have a whole lot to counter that. They challenge him, but he sticks with his story.
You're free to go.
Ultimately, they release Jerome because there's nothing more to go on.
But after he leaves the station, investigators can't shake the feeling that they're missing something.
When you've been a detective for so many years, you develop an intuition for these kinds of things. And the detective's intuition was telling them that Jerome Moore was their man.
So they keep digging. First, they pull Jerome's cell records.
The location data shows that Jerome was home all night, which appears to line up with his story.
But when detectives look back over his messages with Cynthia, they notice an inconsistency.
Jerome told detectives that he kept calling and texting Cynthia after she didn't show up on Friday night.
His phone records tell a different story.
They found nothing that indicated that Jerome had either called or texted Cynthia, which was contrary to the statement that Jerome had made.
In fact, the last message came from Cynthia to Jerome saying that she was on her way to his home.
At that point, they knew Jerome was lying. It wasn't enough to close the case, but it was enough to move forward in pursuing him.
They're able to use that lie, and they immediately secure the search warrant.
5 days after Cynthia's disappearance, law enforcement officers descend on Jerome Moore's home.
Jerome, we have a search warrant for your home. Please step outside.
The detectives start looking around, and frankly, they're disappointed.
They go to his home, they search his vehicle, and there's no signs of an altercation or a fight or anything.
At first glance, there's no evidence to suggest that this is where Cynthia was killed. But detectives aren't giving up.
Police are convinced that Jerome Moore is the person who murdered Cynthia Worthy.
So they call in reinforcements.
Dispatch, can you go ahead and start me a crime lab and a canine?
CSI moves in a whole forensic unit, and they also bring in a cadaver dog. And what they're looking for is evidence that's invisible to the naked eye.
The cadaver dog specializes in scents of human beings, especially human beings that have expired.
Before long, it's clear investigators are on the right track.
This dog makes a hit immediately.
This was a crime scene.
Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast as detectives inch closer to unraveling the truth.
Detectives investigating Cynthia Worthy's murder have identified a 26-year-old man named Jerome Moore as their prime suspect.
Jerome admitted to contacting Cynthia to hire her as an escort.
He says, look, yes, I reached out to her, I had contact with her, but we never met.
Now, however, a cadaver dog has picked up Cynthia's scent in Jerome's house.
They found Cynthia's scent in his bedroom. They found it in the basement. Ultimately, they also found her scent in Jerome's vehicle.
As CSIs finish processing the scene, they uncover even more evidence that Cynthia was killed there.
They were able to recover trace amounts of blood, which was a DNA match for Cynthia Worthy.
The police are now confident they found her killer.
Ultimately, they bring him in for further questioning.
I just want to know what I'm here for. You're here for homicide. That's what you're here for.
But instead of confessing, Jerome sticks to his guns.
He sticks with his original story. He never saw her.
When the detectives press him on physical evidence, Jerome totally clams up.
I have a right to remain silent. Yeah. So when I'm gonna get my lawyers?
At that point, they have to stop questioning. But that's not the end of the case.
Even without a confession, the investigators are able to piece together a picture of what happened that night.
Ultimately, their story is this, that Cynthia had a date with Jerome as an escort. She goes to his home.
They believe he may have tried to force her to do more.
Where you think you going?
Home.
Come on, what you mean you going home?
You got what you paid for.
Some type of fight or altercation occurs right there in the home.
It quickly turned physical.
What you mean I got what I paid for?
Let me go!
Cynthia had no idea what Jerome was capable of.
This was someone with a long history of violence. It didn't take much to set him off.
He grabs a knife and he stabs her in the bedroom.
Once she was dead, investigators believe Jerome hid Cynthia's body in his basement while he figured out what to do next.
He ultimately comes to the conclusion that he would drive and dump her body somewhere.
Jerome put the body in the trunk of the car and taken it to the alley and dumped it, and then dumped the car at a different location.
He took her car, he kidnapped her, and then he killed her.
To Jerome, Cynthia's life didn't matter. But he had made one grave miscalculation.
Jerome underestimated the kind of love that was felt for Cynthia.
He probably figured that police won't care if they find the body of an escort, that no one's gonna possibly learn or tie this to him. But he was wrong, because Cynthia had a family who loved her.
Stand up. Hands behind your back.
Investigators were determined to hold Jerome accountable for all the suffering he had caused.
Finally, 1 week after Cynthia's death, Jerome is officially charged with first-degree murder.
First-degree murder means that he faces mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole.
When they released his picture, I was just like, he looked evil.
I just be feeling like she didn't do anything to you. So why be so violent? Words can't describe it.
It wasn't like it was a relationship that went bad and, you feel so much animosity towards her. You kill someone innocent for what? And that's the part that still bothers me.
Adding insult to injury, Cynthia's family will never see Jerome stand trial for her murder.
Jerome takes a plea deal. He agrees to plead to a second-degree murder, and he's sentenced to 30 to 45 years.
What that means now is that he's eligible for parole, possibly sooner than 30 years.
The verdict is bittersweet for Cynthia's family.
I didn't want to go through a trial, so when they did offer the deal, I was like, okay, let's do that. So we won't have to hear all of these details.
Somewhat you could call it relief, but I was still angry.
I don't believe in the death penalty, but I wouldn't mind if that person wasn't walking this earth again.
However, a few months later, Jerome makes a decision that will dramatically affect his time behind bars.
Within months of going on to prison, he commits a crime.
He is talking to a lady that's a therapist at the prison, and Jerome attempts to sexually assault her.
He's now convicted of a second offense and receives an additional 25 to 50 years in prison. So that's consecutive, meaning that's on top of the 30 to 45 years that he received before.
Jerome's earliest release date is moved to 2071. And depending on his age, that could be a life sentence.
The assault also offers new insight into Cynthia's murder.
It says a lot about him and his character, right? Sexual assaults aren't always about the sex. It's about control.
Maybe Cynthia's murder wasn't just an argument that got out of hand. Maybe it was something more cold and calculated.
She didn't know what she was walking into. He had another plan for Cynthia that night.
I don't feel like there's any amount of rehabilitation for this person.
Even with Jerome locked up, the family's burden doesn't get any easier.
My faith in God, as it used to be, is gone. I had to buck up and realize that life isn't a fairy tale. Bad things happen to good people.
It's still hard to this day to deal with it. I still think about her every day. It's not a day that goes by that I don't think of her.
I just kind of want the world to know that she wasn't just an escort. She was a sister. She was a friend.
Whenever I have a birthday, I always feel guilty that she didn't get one. But I'm going to continue to hopefully have a lot of birthdays and be able to live for her.
Evil often hides in the shadows, but with the unwavering support of family and friends and the help of detectives, the truth eventually came to light. Loved and admired, Cynthia Worthy was a force to be reckoned with. Her vibrant spirit and electric personality left an indelible mark on everyone who knew her. She will be forever cherished and remembered for the love and joy she brought to her family and friends. Coming up on the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
They were a couple destined to last.
They were in it for the long haul.
Their families became like families to one another.
They were going to be together forever.
Until a tragic crime took one of them away.
They just killed my brother.
He was shot multiple times.
He's dead.
After hearing gunshots, a brother's life is suddenly shattered when he discovers that his sibling has been shot. Their lives will never be the same again. What tragic events occurred that day in Granite City? And who was the mysterious figure that sped away in the car, leaving behind questions and lives changed forever? Tune in to the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast. We will see you in the next episode.